We are live. We don't have viewers, but we are live. That's what's important. So we can give a minute or two for viewers, or we could just go ahead and talk for future viewers.
I guess we could just hop right into it.
Yeah, for future viewers. We got 2 viewers. I'm happy. First of all, for people joining us from the Philippines, maybe one of you too, I don't know. Happy Bonifacio Day. And for those joining us from Barbados, happy Independence Day.
Interesting. I guess it's a holiday somewhere every day.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Okay. We've got lots of things to talk about today, and then we can answer your questions. If you wanted to go ahead and ask your questions in the comments section on YouTube or Facebook, they'll show up on our screen. Did you want to start, or you want me to?
Right, I'll start. Let's hop into some of the news that's going on. I think 2 days ago, there was a New York Times article discussing Russian asylum seekers and sort of the difficulties they've been having in seeking asylum in the United States. There was a young couple who crossed the border at I believe they crossed at a point of entry, and they were detained for quite some time and held on a $30,000 bond. And from reviewing the article, it seemed very much so that they were eligible for asylum, that they would be granted relief if they were before a reasonable immigration judge, and sort of the hardship that they've been seeing. So it's kind of interesting seeing that this kind of discourse that the borders are completely open and people are pouring across, and seeing the hardship that actual asylum seekers are facing when they try to seek asylum in the United States. We're going to be seeing more and more of that to come, I think, with the stories about asylum and the hardship asylum seekers face under the Biden administration when Title 42 is eventually rescinded. So for those of you who don't know, Title 42 was a policy that was put in place for COVID that allowed expedited removal of asylum seekers, and they would essentially return them to Mexico without hearing their cases. And that's going to be rescinded. So we're going to see a lot of focus on what's going to go on the border after that rescission. So we have our eye on that, and we're kind of watching what's going on there. And we, just to put it out there, we do represent asylum seekers here in the United States, and we take on many of those cases.
Yes, we do. Although it is a little hard to do consults like in a group session like this. If you're an asylum seeker, you really need to reach out to us directly.
Right. And as always, listen, there's 2 ways. We get calls every day from people trying to apply for asylum from overseas. There's 2 places you can apply for an asylum: if you're inside of the United States or at a point of entry. So if you're not at those 2 places, you are not yet eligible to apply for asylum. So,
okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about the October monthly visa statistics. Can I do that now?
Yeah, let's go. Right. Let's hop into it.
I want to share
my screen. Always fun.
Let's see if I could do this correctly. It's always surprising when I do something correctly. Oh, yeah. This is my screen. Okay. So for those of messed it up. For those of you all that do not know where to find the monthly visa statistics that come out every month, just type in visa statistics in Google and it'll come up to this page. And it has the yearly reports, but then there's monthly immigrant and monthly non-immigrant. And since our firm, we deal mostly in immigrant visa category, so we always go there, which brings us to here. And go all the way down to fiscal year 2023. And there's 2 different reports for each month. By place of birth and visa class, or by post and visa class. And both of these can be can provide useful information. We look a lot at wait, which one's which here? We look a lot at by post, but yeah, the other one is by foreign state of chargeability or place of birth, usually place of birth, right? So I have some takeaways to discuss. First, for DVs, because we have so many DV clients from the past, so we have a DV audience. I have some takeaways for DV 2023. If they're going to do 55,000 visas in 2023, they should be doing 5,939 a month. In October, the first month of the fiscal year, they only did 1,356, which is only 22% of what they should have been doing. So, frequently asked question, how are they doing so far? Rafael, what would you say?
I would say that they haven't hit pace yet, at the very least.
Right. And the problem with not hitting pace, we found this out year after year, is if they fall behind early in the year, it's harder to catch up. So last year they did catch up, but the two prior years they did not.
I wonder, I haven't looked, but it would be worthwhile to look and see how they have done historically in years that they have came close to issuing 55,000 visas or more than 55,000, considering last year, how they have stacked up in October to see how that starts out. But certainly we're going to need to see them pick up the pace.
Right.
If they get the 55,000 this year.
There's some embassies I wanted to commend for best performing embassies. We have Algiers issued 242. For those in past years, you'll know Algiers has had issues sometimes. So that's really great that they are the #1 embassy coming out of the gate for the first month. Warsaw 111. A lot of people from Ukraine are making up that number. Probably some Russians. Tashkent 110 and Tirana 78. Tirana is an embassy that's had some problems in the past, but not last year, and it looks like maybe not this year either. So that's good. Now, the worst performing embassies. Khartoum, a lot of DV selectees from Sudan, they issued 0. I can't say Kigali. Kigali, also 0. Madrid, 0. Monrovia for Liberia, 0. Islamabad 3, even though there are thousands of Afghan DVs. Georgetown 21, Addis Ababa 24. These are really ridiculously low numbers considering the number of DVs that should be issued, should be scheduled and issued visas. Georgetown should have a lot more because the Cubans for October were still assigned there. In January, the Cuban DVs I think will be at Havana, but for October they were there. So
right, it could be a blessing or a curse for Cuban diversity visa seekers, because we know that there's because of the suspension of processing at Havana, there may be a large backlog of cases that are still needing to be processed in Havana. So we'll see what happens.
Right. One of my takeaways from Havana is, look at this. Parents of Cubans, 1,222 of them were issued visas. Very good number, because a lot of them had waited a long time from Havana. They didn't even need to go to Georgetown. Saved them lots of money, which is good.
And it seems we have some DVs already there. Is that Havana? I can't see it so much.
No, that's Helsinki.
Okay, so
we're seeing 3 in Helsinki. There's no DVs that have been scheduled for Havana. I think that I saw that one was in January though. Okay, so the 3 embassies that service the Iranian community, Yerevan, Abu Dhabi, and Ankara, pretty pathetic numbers, barely over 100. And of course, there's thousands of DVs, Iranian DVs. So that's not good. Frequently asked question, which is the better embassy to assign to? I don't think we have enough data to really advise you on that. There's just like a whole bunch of different points that say one and another point that says another, and you just have to roll the dice and decide. If you just look at this, it says Ankara. Ankara is issuing the most, but there's other stuff to consider there, right?
And I'm sure some of these numbers are probably rollovers from the crazy September we have, and they may not even be all DV 2023. They may be some. We know that it's been have some rollovers, so the number may be even lower.
People may not realize that, but that's something we found out with our DV 2022 litigation. We were making this argument. Look, how come these visas were issued in October? And the government and the judge all just looked at us like, oh, those are from last year. And we're like, what? But apparently these statistics are not always precise. Some things are weird about them. So those embassies, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think there's 10 there. You are what's called in the doghouse. You are not our favorite embassies. Do better, so you will not be in the doghouse anymore.
Is that a baby Curtis there?
No, I don't have green eyes. I don't know how to stop screen share. Okay. So that did my presentation on the takeaways from the. Well, I have another takeaway about the visa statistics, and that is the State Department is doing a very bad job with family-based visas across the board, except for these little quirks like Havana doing all the parents of green card holders. Not parents of green card holders, sorry. Parents of U.S. citizens, the IR5s. But for the most part, your embassy may seem really bad, but believe it or not, you're not alone. There are some real problem spots like Islamabad and Mumbai and Abu Dhabi and probably Ankara. But if you feel like your embassy is doing a bad job, it's not alone. Okay. Did you have any other news stuff? You mentioned Texas. Oh no, that was
right. So we got this. So a lot of chatter in the immigration world about the Supreme Court case, Texas v. Biden. Essentially, what happened was the state of Texas sued the Biden administration to force the Biden administration to enforce the deportation of undocumented immigrants, to say it sort of colloquially. What had happened in the past is that administrations could prioritize which undocumented immigrants they could put into removal proceedings, that they needed to detain, that they needed to prosecute in the removal proceedings. And the state of Texas sued the Biden administration and said, listen, you don't have discretion here. The discretion is your discretion is not in the INA. You have to do these things, and you have to do it, to quote Judge Kogan, come hell or high water. So that it was before the Supreme Court. Why I find the case so interesting to us in this sphere is because Curtis and I, over the, I would say probably last 2 years, have been kind of challenging these discretion priorities for the issuance of visas. And in one respect, the judges were kind of saying, listen, the executive branch, the president of the United States, has lots of discretion over which visa categories they want to pick and choose to adjudicate, which at embassies. And now, on the other hand, we have a judge saying, listen, actually, the executive branch's discretion on the enforcement of immigration priorities is quite limited to what's in the INA. Obviously, these are in different spheres, right? One is a deportation proceedings that has different statutes, and one, not deportation, but just removal statutes about the removal of undocumented immigrants from the United States, and one is for the processing of visa categories. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be the law will have the decision by the Supreme Court is going to have a effect on lots of things that go on in the immigration world. So we're watching to see what happens there. But that's a big case to see how the Biden administration will be able to effectuate its discretion in the removal of undocumented immigrants and asylum seekers and those types of and the people coming to the United States. So we'll see.
I do think these cases impact each other indirectly, because if the Biden administration wants to be jerks to the court, they could see consequences not only in the case that they're being a jerk, but in other cases too.
Right. So we'll see whether the final memorandum is unlawful and whether the Supreme Court holds it unlawful, and we'll go from there. But that's something to watch in the coming months.
Okay. Congress. What's going on in Congress, Rafael?
Well, I don't really know what's going on in Congress. So they always say they're going to do something, and then I focus in on it, and it doesn't seem like they're doing very much.
Right.
But we do have the Eagle Act for the documented dreamers. That is going to be voted on, I think, in the House as a standalone bill. Then it'll go over to the Senate. We'll see if they can pass something in the lame duck period before the Republicans take over Congress, at least the House of Representatives. We'll see what's going on there. There's also some chatter about DACA and Dreamers. We'll see what happens there. Curtis, do you have any news on any kind of protections for prior diversity visa winners in the lame duck?
Well, I mentioned this I think in episode 1, and I don't have an update since then. To fund the government for the next fiscal year, they need what's called an omnibus bill for budgeting, and that's going to happen in December. If it doesn't happen in December, they have to close the government. And it's on the table. It's a chance that what's called the Ming 1 amendment from last year could make its way into the omnibus bill. I think that's most likely to be done if it's discreet and there's not a lot of people talking about it. But I've recently noticed where Republicans are willing to close the government if it means that migrants still get to claim asylum in the U.S. or something. Like they're so focused on these issues that people I know are not focused on, like the border, migrants at the southern border, and they're willing to close the government over that. So maybe the omnibus bill might not have anything good for anybody, because if it does have anything that's good, they won't be able to pass it.
Right.
So I don't know.
We got one comment here. Can I pull it up?
We got a lot of questions. Do you want to start with a comment?
I'm trying to pull up comments and the questions, but I'm not having luck today.
Well, see, the first person to join us said, good luck. So you're asking for an update on good luck. We do not have any update on good luck from what we said last, which was Circuit Court of Appeals heard oral arguments in September, and we're waiting for their decision. And we can't go to, summary judgment until we prevail on that appeal. There was a development. Actually, I haven't talked to Rafael about this, and he took some time off last week, so he may not even know that. There was this other DV 2021 or 2022. Bade was 2021, right? It's a case that Nicolette Glazer did that challenged the State Department for not allowing video conference interviews for DVs. And Judge Mehta dismissed the case. She appealed that case. It was supposed to have a hearing next week. And the Circuit Court of Appeals said, we're canceling that hearing. We don't want to deal with that appeal until we issue our opinion in the Good Luck Gomez Consolidated Cases appeal. So that means they are well aware, if not probably working on the opinion for Gomez and Good Luck. That doesn't mean that they're going to issue it this week or next month even. But it's a good sign. Don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, they didn't forget about us. That's always good.
They acknowledged us. They're using us as an excuse not to deal with another case. And I thought that was...
Right. I did not catch that order. I would love to read it and try to read into the tea leaves there. Yeah. Hopefully it's a good sign.
Oh, it's short. It's like one sentence. It's a... we're not going to deal with you yet. You're stayed until this other order. So...
Nice.
So that's the only update I have on that. Good luck. Just be patient. Bikram, hello. James. Thank you for coming back. We're doing well. You want us to tell you what your chance is? Well, how would I calculate that? I went to law school, not math school. I think that there's critical information that we do not have that make it almost impossible to even guess about that. We don't know how the State Department is going to implement the order if we win. We don't even know what the order is going to say.
Right, and that's why Curtis has been so
grumpy.
Well, tough with the government in the sense that you're trying to get information about what's going on so people can start to prepare for their lives, right?
Yeah.
That when that order comes out, because if that order is in the favor of the plaintiffs, there's going to be a whole new set of hurdles that have to be overcome to actually get that visa, right? So if we had more information, people can start making planning appropriately to get an adjudication of their visa. But they just are unwilling to share with us, and I think the judges are unwilling to entertain the untangling of potential processing when it's not even certain that a processing will occur at this point. But certainly, when that order comes out, things are going to start moving very quickly. We're going to be right before judges, and we're going to be very vocal and stomping our feet about getting information about what's going to happen so we can start disseminating that to all the plaintiffs in our cases.
Right. And what Rafael's talking about me being tough with the government, I've sent 2 emails in the last 2 weeks, I think. One asking them, okay, in their IT declaration, they said that all these DV cases from 2020, and it's unclear if they mean all the ones from 2021 or just some of the cases, I don't know, have already been deployed to embassies. Well, if they're deployed to embassies, Russian plaintiffs and are wondering, was my case deployed to Moscow or Frankfurt or where? And then the same with Cubans are wondering if their cases were deployed to Georgetown or Havana. And Afghans are worried that their cases were deployed to Kabul, which isn't an actual embassy, but but for some reason, the State Department continues to entrap DVs into selecting Kabul as their interview location. I don't know why they do that. So anyway, I've been pushing them to give these answers, and Josh Press, who represents the government, as he did under the Trump administration, with these kind of issues, he came back and he said that he's waiting on an answer from State Department. So that's what we're waiting on.
Great.
He had lots of questions here. Did he? Wait. Police clearance expired. That's probably true for about everybody because they're good 2 years, right?
Right. I think they said 2 years. So
I would hold off on getting one because you don't know when this is going to be.
Right. And there's going to be some time to prepare. It's not going to be like the very next day after an order comes out that they're going to go and start processing visas. The cases going to come back down to Judge Mehta and Judge Chutkin. There's going to be some discussion on when that needs to get started. So there'll be time to get that done.
And he asked how many DVs from Liberia, and I think he's asked that before, and I thought I looked it up, but I must not have because he asked again. And I don't know. Send me an email to remind me, and I'll look that up. Okay. Lamine says, yes, that's good news that Algiers is best embassy performance. Keep it up, Algiers. Hello, Free Voice. Anton says, do you have any news for Good Luck DV 2021 selectees? Is it possible now to get an opportunity to continue the visa process? Right now, it is not possible. You need to be patient. Next step is to get the answer from the appeals court. I think I just answered that question. Nadia, same thing, almost the same thing for DV 2020. DV 2020 class members, including our Mohammed Fong John Kennedy plaintiffs and our Project Voyager clients, need to wait until we beat the appeal. We've already won summary judgment, so after we beat the appeal, adjudications may begin within a few months, but we're not there yet.
Right, and there's some, I think there's some reason to believe that we may not have to wait for summary judgment in a good luck case if we can get back in with the court or with the law of the appeals court, kind of saying that this is the way this case is going to be decided. This is the law that you have to apply. Judge Mehta has to apply. I think he would be inclined to revisit his preliminary injunction order and perhaps have the processing begin before summary judgment finishes. But we'll let that will play out.
Right. Well, it's fully briefed, so the easiest thing may be for him to issue a summary judgment. But you're right; it could happen a couple different ways. Dimitri says we are DV 2021 from Georgia. Well, that doesn't tell me whether or not you are a good luck or go plaintiff. If you are not a plaintiff and you were waiting on a interview from Tbilisi to, how do you say that? The U.S. Embassy in Georgia. If you're waiting on an interview from Tbilisi, however you say that, I'm sorry, in 2021 and you were not a plaintiff, then your DV 2021 journey is over.
Georgia is not in the Schengen area, right?
Correct. Oh, yeah. But he says good luck. So that means he's probably a good luck plaintiff? I don't know. You better be a good luck plaintiff if you're still thinking about DV 2021 and you're assigned to that embassy. Lamine, don't lose faith in the United States Congress before you even get to the U.S. Wait until you're here a while and do that, like all of us.
But they, Congress has been doing some things here and there. Mm-hmm. The democracy in the United States wouldn't be described as moving quickly. No. Things have to go slowly. So right. Things have been passed. We'll see what happens in this lame duck Congress. And maybe we'll revisit that sentiment on next week or next month's show.
Right. Kennedy plaintiff, hello. Been with us for a while from Morocco. I wish you gentlemen the best of luck for all your cases. I appreciate that, Jamal. Thanks. Beck Sultan says, let's assume order from Meta has been issued around July to give interviews. I'm not going to assume that. I'm hoping it's sooner, but I don't have any way to know. Well, the judge asked to finish it until September 23. We don't know.
We don't know.
Nobody knows.
It's going to be interesting, though, if it does come back and we are victorious, what the processing time. I think the government is going to have a lot to say about that because they are balancing what they believe are other priorities. So I think a lot of that is going to be on the arguments made for the timeline that the government proposes, right? Because I think Judge Mehta will turn to the government and be like, when do you think you can get this done?
Right. He's got a follow-up question. Will it be enough to finish processing time? And I think that he thinks it has to be done by the end of fiscal year 2023. And that's not true. It has to be done. They're going to have to do the will of the judge.
Yeah, it has to be. They're going to do it until they issue all of the visas that are preserved by the judge.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's not a deadline.
It's not a temporal deadline. It's
right.
A deadline by the.
And Lamine says he didn't lose faith yet, but he has more faith on the Kennedy case. Well, you know what's interesting about that is we won the Kennedy case. Like Muhammad Fong Kennedy and Aker and Gomez, those cases, we won summary judgment. Someone messaged me the other day and said, can you dismiss my claims from that lawsuit? And I said, no, there's not a procedural way to say you're not a plaintiff in a lawsuit after you won the lawsuit. So since we won, now we're waiting to beat the Biden administration's appeal because the Biden administration is a sore loser. So that's where we're at. And running out of questions. We got one more here. Mo from Sudan. Hello. Rosales case, which is now a good luck plaintiff. Case number 30,000. What is the update? And can I change my interview location? The update we shared earlier, still waiting on the appeal. You cannot change your interview location right now because your case is frozen. All DV 2020 and 2021 selectees cases are frozen. There's nothing you can do to change on those cases right now. After we beat the appeal and we win summary judgment, we will know whether or not we can change interview locations. I know why you're asking, because Khartoum, as we just looked at statistics, is not performing very well right now.
I wonder why Khartoum, it always surprises me that Khartoum continues to say that individuals have to be processed in Khartoum, or that we want to even process diversity visas, and this is a diversity visa processing post, and then doesn't even try to schedule a single diversity visa applicant. It is fundamentally unfair, and they should just not take those on, because it gives people false sense of hope and anxiety that something's going to happen there when it never does.
Right. I think the government of Sudan needs to put pressure on the United States, on Secretary Blinken, because it's almost as if the Sudanese people are being discriminated against. But that's just my opinion.
So one question I received recently that I was very interested. So a lot of asylum seekers are being paroled into the United States, and there was a question of whether they were eligible for their work authorization pursuant to their parole. And what what the answer to the question is, it depends on whether or not those asylum seekers have had a credible fear interview, and then the reason for the parole. So I guess if you are an asylum seeker and you're watching this and you're kind of trying to figure out whether you have work authorization or not, there's something you can give us a call about, and we can try to work with you to get your work authorization. So that's a question I've been getting in my DMs a lot, of whether I'm eligible for my work authorization.
Cool. I think I've answered I think we've talked about everything as far as like the questions I've been getting the last week or two. We filed a case for called Naveed versus Blinken last Friday. That's for 10 couples that are U.S. citizens and their Pakistani spouses who are waiting for interviews, who have been DQ over a year. We've got a judge assignment in that case. Reggie Walton, is that right? Who's a judge we don't have a lot of experience with, so that'll be interesting.
Which is rare for that court, that we don't have experience with that judge.
Yeah, in September alone, I think we had hearings before at least 20 judges, and there's only 25. I don't know. It was pretty crazy. So that's all that I have. Any more questions? Y'all, last chance to type your question in the notes, in the comments in the YouTube or the Facebook. if you are joining us from Russia, tomorrow we will be having actually earlier in the day, so not that far from now, less than 20 hours from now, we will be having a live Q&A that will be translated into Russian in real time.
Great. So I guess we're going to end it a little early today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then we'll pick it up tomorrow and then same time next week, right?
Yeah, every Wednesday. Start tuning in every week, like it's like your favorite show. That would be kind of cool.
But I do appreciate that. I think the show is going well because it seems that we're at the very least we're getting information out about the diversity visa cases for DV 2020 and DV 2021 because those questions seem to be decreasing in frequency. So we're getting that information out, and then it's going to create space for us to take on new types of questions in different kinds of fields. Right. So that's great. Okay. All right, Curtis.
Okay.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.